Hello, thank you for joining me. I am going to talk about what I think one should know or what I wish I had known before moving to a different country. I moved from Botswana to the UK years ago. Um, so I feel like there's some things that if people know, they would maybe make their journeys a little bit easier. This is what I think, right? So I feel like it's really important to know history, to know current affairs, and to know how people like you, people who look like you, are treated where you're going. You know, history informs us that certain people were treated certain ways, or if you go to, because I believe that there maybe some countries where people don't feel like if somebody from the UK was to go to Botswana, a white British person, if they were go to live in Botswana, I don't think the experiences will be similar to mine. Some, yes, will be similar because that's different cultures and stuff, but one of us would feel negatively impacted more than the other, right? So it's important to know what to expect. Like, for example, my name is Setswana, completely Setswana. So if I understand history or if I had really taken into consideration what people whose names were foreign here in the UK were treated like doesn't mean that if I apply for jobs I would have the same opportunity as somebody else whose name is not Setswana. There's some things that, like, when I look back, I realize that I didn't think some things mattered, but I have lived here for quite some time. So I now have had experiences of my own, and I would also like my children to, I don't want them to struggle in certain areas where, you know, I did not have maybe proper knowledge because sometimes some things you would experience because there's nobody who's very close to you who knows them, or the people who are telling you, maybe you feel like you've got like different backgrounds, so sometimes it's not even easy for you to properly process what they are saying, right? um and then another example is when looking for church, for example. It's important to know what people who look like you are treated in churches. I'll give an example. Um, there are some churches that don't allow women to lead services, yeah, or preach, stuff like that. So if you're a woman who was a preacher or you had leadership roles where you come from, you need to understand that choosing that church might mean that you're not going to get that opportunity anymore. So maybe for some people that is nothing, but for some, that can shake your whole belief system, because if you really believe that you've got a purpose and maybe you feel like your purpose is speaking or singing or whatever, then it might mean that you have to rethink. You might have to move church, you might have to fight, you might have to, sit down and consider what your way forward is. And then also some churches, you have to know, look around and see that church. Look at whether it's a multiracial church, multicultural church. What do you want? I know there's some people who are comfortable in an all black church, for example. I personally feel that I would want to go to a church that reflects the demographics of the area where I'm at. For whatever reason, I just feel like I just want to be in a church like that. However, I understand again, there are other issues that might mean that if a church is led by someone from a certain race, some people from another race may not want to come to join that church. So these are the realities. This is the reality. Um, Church shouldn't be influenced by culture like that. Church should be led by the Holy Spirit. But the reality is that sometimes people will bring their own stuff to church. They may lead not necessarily according to God's plan, but according to their own ways. And then This will also um, influence, let's say, your interracial relationships, romantic relationships, or just platonic relationships, right? Because that will mean that, again, the way you relate, in reality, people bring their stereotypes into relationships. So sometimes you might feel like you have to over explain certain things. Some relationships, if it's two open people, like you come from different cultures, but you're really open, that's not going to be a problem. But if one of you has got stereotypes, or one of you feels like they're better than the other solely based on race, then that's going to be another issue. So if the place you're going to is a place that struggles with that, if there's a stronghold of racism, these are the things that you are going to be facing. These are the things that you're likely to be, whether or not you realize that you're going to be fighting them, they will influence your social life. They will influence a lot. And these can also lead to mental health issues if you don't quite know how to handle them, or if you don't understand what is happening. Right. Again, there is cultural shock. You know, things are not always the way we see them. When you are in your home country, you might think that where you are going is, a place that is paved with, like the roads are paved with gold and stuff like that. But there will be reality. Reality will show you that, people have got their own cultures, they've got their own way of doing things. And then let's go to economics. Economically, again, looking for jobs and staying in jobs and buying houses, assets. Again, it's important to know how people who look like you have been treated. There's so much information now on YouTube. You can tell, like, you want to know if you're going to be applying for universities, for example. What does it mean when you go to university? What does it mean? How are people like you treated in the workplace? How are people? Is it is it easy for you to get a promotion? Do you have to work 10 times harder than other people? These are important things. So if you know things like this, it can help. I think for some people it would be you know so important that they might even decide not to even travel in the first place. And then also look at the positives, right? Just because you're going to a place where maybe it's, let's say, the stronghold, there's so much racism, it doesn't mean that every person of that race is like that. So look at the positive sides, look at people who fought again. So if you still feel like you still want to go to that place, you should realize that, yeah, there are people in those areas, but you need to know. You need to know where you are going. You need to know. If you're a woman, you're going to a certain place, you need to know whether the place you're going to, they actually value women. Do they see women as equal to men? What does it mean? What does it mean if you were to get in a place where you are sexually harassed? Will the government pay attention to you? Or do you see what I mean? Do you have to dress in a certain way? These are very important things. And then look again, when it comes to people who look like you, look at court cases. Go on and look at, for example, whistleblowers cases. Go to employment tribunals, whatever they are called, where you are interested in going. Look at what the cases look at. Look at patterns, and then remember that the written judgments don't necessarily reflect reality. If the judge is corrupt, if the judge, has a tendency of being biased, they'll obviously report or record in a certain way. But it's not hard to always see, reality. The truth has a way of coming out. So you can see how people who look like you are treated in the courts, and then you can also see what kind of cases are brought there. If the cases are more of discrimination or whatever, then you will see, and then you'll see also the nature of accusations. You see how things are handled, so you can have a better understanding of how people are in that place, right? Some places can be like, maybe the culture there, even if people don't want to admit, you might find that people can be maybe more covert in the way they deal with things. Or, let's say maybe in Botswana, people believe there's a saying, "Ntakgolo ke ya molomo," as in people should really try and talk and reason together, like there's no need for violence and all that. So you can also look at that. Check to see whether that's just a saying or reality, because people can say their values are like this, but reality might be something else. So check to see whether really people are the way that they describe themselves. Literature can describe people one way. That's another thing. Media can give a one picture and reality can be something else. Talk to, maybe if you've got access to people who look like you in that area, again, talk to them, talk to different people to see, right? See what the experiences are, see what the experience of those who like the hosting race, yeah, if I put it that way. Check to see what they feel. Some may resent people who come to their countries. Some countries may be welcoming, whereas others may resent people who do not belong there, like immigrants, right? So you need to know this. It's important to know before you go. Know what your children are likely to experience in the schools as well. Look at history, look at current affairs, check Google and see what cases are there. Will your kids be picked on just because of their color? At what age will they start experiencing these things? It's so, so, so important. Will they be killed because of their race? These are very important things. These are things that may be completely shocking to someone who has not experienced them, but it is reality, and there are things that you need to know. And then when it comes to, again, interracial relationships, if you go to a new place, you are likely to maybe get in a relationship with someone from that place. So the question is, how do they treat, again, partners from different races? Is that going to be a problem? Do you think you will get a lot of support from their friends if they think you are less of a human being? Or are people progressive? Do you think that people are more accommodating? Or again, it doesn't mean that everybody should brush people with the same brush. Like, there are obviously some people who are open-minded, but you still need to know that the surroundings will influence. Like, let's say in Botswana, when you get married, it's not just you, like the family can be involved. So we need to know whether people are going to accept you. You should know whether the family is going to cause trouble. Will they invite themselves to your house? Will they come unannounced, for example? How is that going to be? How are they going to treat you? Are they going to treat you like you are a mini god? Is that what you want? How are you going to handle it? You see it. Yeah, it's important to know all these things. And then hospitals, again, hospital healthcare system. Will you be able to get proper healthcare? How were people who look like you treated during the pandemic? Were they prioritized? Did they get proper care? You need to know stuff like that, so that because culture gives you a pattern that is likely to repeat. How likely is it for you to get ill-treated in the healthcare system just because of your race? You've got to know that, right? What is the mentality? What do people think of you? Yeah, before, some people will already have an assumption of who you are without without you even saying anything to them. They just look at your skin color and they make assumptions. They think, you are this way or that way. And then it's important to find a network of people who look like you. If you're able to find people who have been there before you, that's important. Again, it's also still important to make sure that your values are similar. Obviously, there's no point in just going and saying, I'm going to look for people who look like me. If the values are different, then it's just not going to work. So you might as well also just find other ways. To be honest, now we can still have support, across the oceans. You can still keep in touch with family and friends. If you are living in a different continent, you can still keep in touch with family and friends so that they help you navigate the system. Even though the challenge with that is that if your family and friends have not lived abroad or they've not lived in that country, they may not understand what you are facing. And sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating because you'd have to explain yourself, and it can take a little bit longer. Some things are better understood by people who have experienced them. However, the good thing is that people who love you will eventually understand what it is that you are dealing with. And then it does make your burdens more bearable. Some people might have to reconsider if you went to a place, thinking that this was a great opportunity for you, or people obviously move, to different countries for different reasons. If you find yourself there and you're thinking, this is not what I expected, and this is just not helping me at all. If you feel like your mental health is just suffering, you might want to consider going back home, right? Because the main thing is your mental health. And then do not let all these experiences change who you are. I'm speaking more to people who have had negative experiences. If you had negative experiences, if the culture was not very accommodating, if you just got a really, really, really bad experience, then don't let it change you. Make sure that you remember your roots, where you come from, your values, and what you want. Continue to be a loving person, love people, make your contribution to the world, and make sure that you remain a good person. And then another thing is to be intentional. I really don't like to just speak more on the negative side. Let's celebrate our different melanin variations, because they are absolutely beautiful. The truth is that we human beings are beautiful. So some of the things are just learned behaviors, and if we all allow ourselves to see each other as human beings with equal rights, then the world will be such a better place. But unfortunately, we know that right now, it's also important to keep yourself safe. You don't want to pretend like you're not facing difficulties, because things happen. Yeah. So, yeah, that is the end of it. That was just me talking really, really randomly about, what I really think that maybe people should consider before moving to new countries or new places. I know some people have got different tribes in their countries. Again, that's another thing that you can consider. People have got different values, different cultures, and these are very important to take into consideration. Thank you very much for the time you have taken listening to this video. Ke a leboga.